Seeking is kind of basically the fuel, the fire that drives everything, doesn't it? And have you heard of Nisargadatta and his statement that sincerity is key? Right? That's one of his main statements. Sincerity is key. It's because what we're wanting, where it's coming from, if it's coming from a sincere place, of course, we don't exactly know what we're going to be getting. So it's as sincere as can be, as we can make it. But it's almost like, really, it's the desire itself of fulfillment that is driving the seeking. It's not necessarily our desire. So it's really important to be able to differentiate and see if you can lean into the drive that is free of any agenda. It is for its own sake passionate. It's a passionate drive for wanting, I guess, the longing to come back home. It's different from a fabricated drive of, I heard that there's something called awakening and oneness, and coming from the mind, and I'm going to try to get there through these different practices, and they all come from the outside, all the practices and the idea itself may come from the outside. So you want to tease out what you've heard and what you're imagining, and even ideas of how to get there from the Satguru that lives inside of you, the one that is longing for home. That's the real drive. That's the sincere seeker. So the seeking energy is a drive that emerges from the part of you that is missing your essence. It's missing the fact it knows that there's a feeling of separation, and it longs for reunification. That's the real seeking drive versus an idea coming from the outside. I just wanted to point that out in the beginning. So do you understand the difference? So see if you can just tune in while I'm talking and during the session, these next few hours, and your own longing. Touch on your own longing. And see if you can hold it with loving care, versus if you have any ideas that seeking energy shouldn't be here because of something you've heard, that's something that's also out there, But rather than any ideas that you have that this energy should be put to rest and pushed away because it's coming from ego or some kind of story, okay? Some kind of story about seeking energy. So if you can set that aside and hold this feeling of wanting, the longing to come home, and hold it with care, hold it with maybe some respect, some awe and respect, because it's an arrow. Like I have this little this longing, a little poem I wrote, and about how seeking is an arrow that emerges from yourself and it's trying to come back to yourself. And it's doing its best job to make that happen. So in the days of ancient, days of yogis and so on, the seeking drive was held with respect and care, and then it just needs to be channeled in a way that is really useful. And how does one do that? By, first of all, being in respect to it and care, and then trust. Trust that it is something that's been planted inside of you to help ring a bell inside that not all is well for a reason. And the reason one may feel like there's something missing over and over again and unfulfilling, right? You get in a new relationship and it's maybe great for a while, but then what happens? That, or you get a new toy of some sort, even as an adult, whatever it is, these kind of things that we seek for in order to fulfill us, they don't last in terms of the fulfillment, because we've been trained since we were little to look outside of ourselves for our wholeness. Right? So there's this outward leaning focus that's been taking place for a long time of, I'm going to find myself, and it's unconscious, in the world, with others, with things. But then there's this wake up bell that takes place, and all of you have had it. That's why you're here. That's why we're here. It's this wake up bell that says, wait a minute. This fulfillment is not taking place on the outside. And the seeker wakes up, the seeker for its own self. And that is a really big thing. That's a momentous moment. So give it some credit, That doesn't mean that you're going to feel satisfied. You might even feel more dissatisfied for a while. But like all those poems by Rumi and those ecstatic poets of Christian mystics and Sufi mystics, and from India mystics, women and men, Mirabai, and all these mystics, right? They write about the longing for God, and they are drunk on the longing, aren't they? So they're not pushing that longing away, saying this is not good. They're in a celebration of it. So if you have been in any way pushing away this longing inside, and know that you're not going to be finding on the outside, and that doesn't mean you don't want to have a good life, but be mature with it. It's like, this longing is for my very own self. And you might feel it here, like in your heart area, the longing is for my very own self. I'm missing myself. But the only way that you could miss yourself or have a longing is because at some point you did know. You can't miss something that you don't already know inside. Interesting, yeah? Like we wouldn't know the color red if it didn't exist, right? So how would you know that you're missing something? So just for a moment, take that in. I already know inside that I'm missing something. That means that that knowing is still here somewhere. It's still here. When I'm missing was here at some point, maybe when I was little, and that knowing, that remembering still exists. And really, it hasn't gone anywhere. What's happened, it's been covered over with layers and veils of conditioning, forgetting things that help, that lead to forgetfulness, the conditioning of the collective, that our fulfillment lies outside of us. And slowly, that understanding that wholeness lives here, it ebbs. And I don't know what age that took place for you. But at some point it took place. I mean, if you believe in lifetimes, maybe it took place in another lifetime. There's, but let's just say it was when you were little. Make it simpler.